So here there's an option to set what type of annotation that you need to apply to the text. So suppose if you want the text to be in the annotative format. So annotative means that standard text refers to any text that is available on the drawing. So next what we have here is the annotative text style. So annotative means that the text object remains the same even when the scale of the other objects are changed. So that is, the text remains annotative to the viewer scale. So this is the application of annotative. So suppose there's already a text style called as an annotative that goes as default, and suppose if you want to update this standard text style as annotative, then you can still enable this option to make this as annotative. A quick way of identifying whether the annotative style has been on or off can be identified with the symbol here, small icon that will display whether the text style is annotative. So with this we can specify with respect to the paper text height, it will vary. Suppose if it's 0, then it means that the default text height is automatically taken. Whereas if it's set positive number, that is greater than 0, then the text height is being set automatically based on the paper text. Okay, so this is what you will be using in case if you want to set the text size to be annotative. So one more key information to be looked at as the effects. Actually there are varying properties, it does not apply to all. Right now you can see that only upside down and backwards have been selected. It means that only these two options are available to be used for the text command, whereas the width factor and the oblique angle, these two commands have no impact on the single text lines. They all have an impact on the multi-text line only. So this is one key thing to be noted. And another thing is that suppose if you are working on an existing document, suppose consider this as an existing drawing document that you have opened upon and starting to work, whether this has arrived from somebody else, right? So you find that the text is of different text style and you want to apply a new text style, suppose this user 3. So you can see if you click on user 3 and then set as current text style, you do not see a change of the text. What you can see is, as the standard was the text style used to create this object, whatever change you enact to this will reflect in the drawing. Whereas you can recollect that this new text style was created only after typing out these texts. So it means that whatever change you make here does not reflect on the current setup that you have. So this cannot be done even if you try out region or any refresh of it, this won't work out. So why? Because there's also a property called as a quick properties. So suppose to check it, what are the conditions of this is, you can select here and see that it is a standard text style that has been employed and it's not getting updated. In order to change it, you can right click on the object and then go for Q properties, quick properties, and here you can see what are the settings with which this object was created. And suppose you can now change the selecting whatever you want to apply it. So this is one type of doing it. So now the other way of applying the updates to all the files that you have, that is all the objects that you have together, is to have a shortcut command called as a Q-select. So that is basically the quick select operation. So it acts as a filter to select what are the different layers that you want. So suppose if you want to address only the text size or the height of multiple objects, then you can look into here. Now this quick select filter, it applies to the entire drawing here, and what are the object types that you want. So is it either multi-line, multiple, or suppose it applies only to line, then you can update in here. So now our requirement would be on text, and on the text what particular property do we want to address to. So you can see the different properties that are associated with the text, and we want to update this text style. So once you do that, you have an operator called as equals or not equal or select all. So suppose whatever we want to update, we can select it. So here the style must be equal to the value that we want. Suppose if we want to make it as an annotative standard, then we can click it out, and then how this change to be affected. That is, should it be included in the new selection set or should it be excluded in the selection set. Selection set as in the properties that are applying to this selection, so this drawing set. Okay, so based on this you can refresh the or apply the changes in bulk to your drawing. So this is the application of the style command. So the next step is, once having entered the text, suppose if we want to modify the text, that is, if we want to update this text content here, there are two ways of doing it. One thing is, you can select the object and double click it. That will go into the text edit mode. You can see it in the command prompt here, text edit mode. So wherein, suppose I am updating with the capital R here. So the right. So this is one way of updating. The other way of updating is, you select the object and type in dd edit. So once that is done, it again goes in the text edit option, wherein you can update the text as you want. So this is a functionality to update or edit the text that you view. So the next fact is that for if you are typing in any special characters, then you can use some sets of Unicode or control codes to enable the insertion of text special characters. Suppose if you want to introduce the degree sign here, then typing in percentage C will actuate the degree symbol. Likewise, typing in percentage P will give in the plus minus sign. Next is percentage D will automatically convert to your degree sign. So these are all certain frequent commands that you use. Also, there is a provision to enable or disable the overscoring or underscoring, that is underline or overline. So that again can be done by using percentage. Okay, let me click in here. Percentage O for overscoring. So now if you write in here top, you can see that for this text an overscore has been assigned. So it actually acts, the control codes whatever you are using can be used as a prefix in case of symbols, or if you are using an underscoring or overscore on or off, it can be used anywhere. So once that a label has been turned on, it will apply for all the subsequent commands that you want. So if you could see here in the, let me come out of this, and okay, so the on or off command is not displaying here, but anyway we can use the overscoring to edit whatever text we want to do. So suppose if we want to underline a text object, then you can use percentage U. Next, so this is how you underline a text. So this is the variations of using the special characters of control codes. So next we'll see again inserting these special characters using Unicode formats. So what earlier we saw was the control codes that are specific to AutoCAD, whereas let us see some Unicode. So these are standards that can be used across the platform. So that starts with \U plus symbol 00 D and then following with a 0. So that will introduce your degree symbol. So next is your for plus or minus, it is \U plus 00 capital B and 1. Similarly, for degree symbol, it is \U plus 2205. So this is the variation between the Unicode and control codes. For ease of use, you can stick with control codes as it is much faster to apply those symbols and then start with your activities much faster. So next hack what we can see here is, see, you are working on this drawing now and all your annotation and text is scattered all around, but you still, this information is not currently required for you to view. Suppose if you have to operate on this object and there's an overlap or disturbance between the view, then we have an option to disable the text that is displayed in the current view. So to do that, you can type in qtext command and you can see the dynamic display, the input required is either an on or off. Suppose if we enter the on mode, that is, the text will be hidden and it should be replaced with an object or a box denoting its boundary. But in order to enable it, then you have to regen the image again. So if you could see, the text objects are being replaced with the box denoting its boundary. So now you can still focus on your work area. Why this is useful is because you can differentiate what your text objects are and you can selectively mask it to improve your performance. But if you still want to hide all those things that are available here, then you can do that using layers command that we'll see in the subsequent week. It means that you are slicing this entire drawing into different layers, and suppose assigning that all the text can be assigned to a single layer whereas the drawing can be assigned to a layer Y, then the first layer of text can be hidden completely so that you can operate only on the drawing layer. Okay, so now to enable back the text, you have to disable the qtext command again and then type in regen so as to have the view back. So on the single text line object, we can also perform one more operation similar to the mirroring operation that you do on an object. So the expectation out of a mirror command is that it will flip the text object horizontally or vertically along the axis that you want. So to enable that, we have a command called as the mirror text option. So this is either turn on or off the control that the mirror command has over the text. So that is, by default, if you use a mirror command, the text won't be mirrored. So let us quickly check what we are speaking now. So let us pan in this way. Suppose we want to mirror all these objects that we have here onto the next line. Suppose. So we want to mirror across this line. As you could see, drawing object is being mirrored. Sorry, let me repeat it back. The selected objects are all the objects mirror across this axis. See, the objects are exactly mirrored here. However, characters are not flipped. That means that the orientation is remained held the same. So this is what the default mirror command acts on the text. Suppose if you want to mirror the text also across the axis that you want, then you have to select the mirror text command. So by default it will be 0, that is you are disabling it, and you have to enter 1 to override the system variable so that your mirroring will apply to the text also. So let us now repeat back the mirror command. We have selected all the subject and then enable mirror. Now we can see the text object have also become mirrored. So this is one system variable command, mirror text, to enable mirroring of the text. So now let us go back and disable the command so that we'll have the same view. So now let's move on to the next important command of the text line, that is we have a multiple line text. Till now we were seeing the single line text command. So now let's look into the multi-line text. So we'll quickly select all these images and then erase them out. So the multi-line text can be invoked with the mtext command. So now you can see the difference between the single line and the multi-line is that you have a floating icon called as an ABC that denotes that it's going to be a multi-line, and next it asks for the specification of the first corner. So once you specify the first corner, and then the next requirement is to give out the next corner, or also we have additional options, the text properties that can be defined as height, justification, the line spacing between the lines, the rotation, the style, the width and the columns. So we'll just go with the default setting first and we'll select the opposite corner. So once it is done, there are key features that you can look into immediately. That is, one thing is that you can see there is a ruler that applies on the top to help you to analyze like what is the spacing and all. So that is enabled in this one. So if you could see, this is looks like a additional one. As you rightly guess, it's a additional ribbon that is available, that is the text editor ribbon. It means that it includes the tools that are used and for formatting and editing, particularly to the multi-line text. So as you could see here, initially you have the style menu wherein you can select which style that you want to apply and what is the text height and what is the masking, that is background masking, that is required, and other properties, that is you have the bold, italics, or the strike through command or underline, overline enabling. Earlier we were seeing to enable it or disable it using the command line object, but here you can see that it is also available in the graphical interface. Next, you have a dedicated command for selecting the type of justification you want. Next, we also have an option to define the structuring of the paragraph through bullets or numbering and specify the line spacing. So this is similar to what you expect out in a Microsoft Word or a PowerPoint. So that means that this multi-line text, instead of the regular CAD interfacing, this can be edited in a GUI way, that is what graphical user interface, and also popularly called as from the all the processing softwares, that is the word processing softwares and the PowerPoint softwares, they are typically called as a WYSIWYG, that is what you see is what you get. So in similar ways, now you can type in all the requirements to your text command operations through a graphical interface or through using these command ribbon buttons. The next, also we have an option to specify the number of columns that you want to specify within this. Is it either a single column or multiple column? Alternatively, we can also include all the symbols. So if we click on here, earlier we were seeing the command prompt to insert the different symbols that we want, that is the command line code for control codes as well as a Unicode code. So here, instead of remembering them, you can directly select from here also. Next, you also have an option to spell check the entire text that you do, and also text editing commands are available here. So this is your typical overview of the mtext command. So now let's look into each and everything. Suppose we are typing a command here. Okay, so we are clicking in outage. So now we see that using the mtext command, we have written 2 lines of code. But if you select this, you can see that this 2 lines of code pertains to a single text object. So this is the basic difference between a single line and a multi-line text. If you recollect, a single line text, even if you type in multiple lines of text, each line will be considered as a separate object. So this is the first difference that you have. So again, then if you double click on it, it will go to the edit mode. So instead of the DD edit that you have in the earlier menu, so here you can do empty edit, that is the multi-line text edit. So this invokes the editing of the multi-line object. So next we can see the other properties that will be useful for us. So this is a GUI interface. Alternatively, by right clicking onto this box, you can have additional commands. So here we have the insert an external field that you want to do. So this is a normal copy paste options that are available. Next is the insert field. So it means that if you are referencing to a tertiary object in the AutoCAD environment, then you can insert that field as a reference. So suppose if you want to insert the date and in what command it is, then you can insert that as an object into this line itself. So this is a field editing option that you have. So here again, once you click on the field and right click it, then you have an option to update the field or edit the field. Suppose the current date that we are working on is 14/4, and suppose we open it up in a later date and want to update this field, then you can click on this object, right click, and then update field to reflect these changes. So this is the functionality of a field. Okay, so let us delete it and come back to our point here. So again, right clicking on, so now we can see an option to insert the symbol directly from this typing space. The same symbols and in the control codes as well as in the Unicode codes are available, and also we can introduce a non-breaking space, that is you introduce a line break here, so that also can be enacted through this command of control shift and space. So alternatively, these are the frequent use commands, and suppose if you want to insert additional symbols, then you can click on symbol and then other, so that will invoke the additional character maps that are available. So here you can look into what are the different options that you have. So this is similar to the line of the other word processing software that is available to you. Suppose you want to introduce a gamma symbol into it, so you can take the corresponding symbol. So once we select this letter gamma, then you can see the associated the Unicode symbol for that. So it is U plus 03B3. So if you click on that and then select the object and then click on copy, then that is get taken in copy. Now you can right click and then paste it to introduce the symbol there. So this is the usage of the other symbols commands in the multi-line. So next what we have here in the text is importing a reference text from a different file. So suppose if you have saved a text template in the .txt file, then that again can be inserted into your drawing. So next what you have is the alignment of the paragraph. So you can do it in the graphical ways, that is if you want to justify this paragraph alignment, so then clicking on this, so now it is justified. Suppose if we want to do it in the, so you select this text and then click on the left justified so as to enable the left justification. So likewise you can do. So earlier what we saw was you can do this by going into the command of mtext, and so in mtext what we have to do is once we specify the boundaries, then before specifying the next closing the boundary, you have to specify what is the height or the distance. So now let's look into one by one. So specifying the h option height, so thereby we can define the text height. So as in the single line object we had used 25, that is being carried forward for the mtext. Suppose if you want to change the text height as 30, now it will get updated. But as you are in the command line and in option property, so the command reverts back to the previous requirement of specifying an opposite corner. So now let's look into the justify command again. So here you can select what type of justification you want. So as it is a multi-line command, the fundamental alignment operations get done away with. That is, you get a combination of the alignment only. So you have the justification as top left, top center, top right, middle left, middle center, middle right, and bottom left, bottom center, and bottom right. You do not get an individual text left, center, or right commands because essentially involved with multi-line text. So this is one difference that comes along with the justification option in multi-line. Next is the line spacing, that is command L, or you can select in the dynamics here. So how are the lines between the individual lines spaced? So there are two options to it. So the space should be at least so and so distance or exactly so and so distance. So with these options you have an option to select the spacing factor or the distance. So when we selected the command as ease, that is it should be exactly so much of distance, and the default distance is selected, you can see in the angular brackets, that is 1x. Suppose the default spacing between the lines should be 2 line spacing. Now you can see that, so the line specification value should be between 12.5, that is 0.25 times, and 200, that is 4x. So let us say the distance value as say 25. So because as the minimum most value 12.5 corresponds to 0.25. So we have selected the specification distance as 25. So alternatively, if you want to specify in terms of factor, then you have to specify with the x command. We'll use the exactly command and then say as say 2x. So now the factor is being captured as 2 times. So earlier that 25 denotes the spacing between those two lines in units, now in terms of factor. So next we have the command to rotate the text, that is using the rotation option. Again, as in the single line test, by specifying the angle with respect to the baseline, you can specify the rotation. So next command is the style command. So earlier in a single line, you have to either select the styling earlier or have to update it individually for each and every object, but here you have the selection to use with the in the command itself. So based on here, if you click on the down line, you can select the different styles that are available. So right now this style we have selected is the user one, so you can select with that. Suppose if you want to change the styling also, you can do it once you have gone into the multi-text editing properties. So next is the width command, that is the width of the text line. So here you can specify the width that you are requiring for. Suppose it's say it's of 50 units, then that width can be specified. So as you can see, now the ruler gets aligned according to the width of the text line. So alternatively, you can also dynamically adjust the text height and the width based on the requirement. So this again text, when you go for that, typically you can use the same for single line and multiple line, because this text offers a varied way of controlling the text that you have. So and again with this you can rely more on the dynamic way of selecting text, so that it is helpful for you to quickly address the options. So in the next text of the text option, we have the columns option. So that can be invoked with this command with columns, and you can see there are three variants to it. We have a dynamic column setting, a static, and a no columns option. So no columns, it means that it is a single column, whereas in dynamic it means that you can control the columns dynamically through the UI based on the requirement. There are no hard fast boundaries for the columns that needs to be defined first. Based on the requirement, it is flexible to be adopted. Whereas in static, it means that you specify the total width and height of the text object and also the number of columns. So based on it, the columns are divided and split into. So let us look into one by one. So first is the default column width for dynamic is, let us go with the same settings. 750 for the column width, gutter width for 125, and the column height is 250. These are the default settings, so let us go with it and see how it's going to vary in the GUI. So suppose we want to give in two columns that specifies the serial number as well as the component name. Then in that case, in this ruler is where you can specify the column. So see, right now we have a dynamic column that makes sure that the height is getting adjusted, whereas the width is getting gone. So suppose we want to insert a column here, that is say it's a serial number, and then specify that we need to insert a break to it. So we can press it by clicking Alt Enter or the screen over there. See, now the width of the column is mentioned here, so we can dynamically control this width. So as seen earlier, we had specified for the dynamic columns the width to be of 750 mm. So that is what is mentioned here. So likewise, we can extend it. So this is the total width, and now we can expand the width accordingly. So but as you could see, the column width are controlled based on it. So it is uniform in structure. Whereas if you type in the, say it's a product name of tech, it gets wrapped automatically. So this is how the width is going to get controlled by the initial setting. So by varying that, you can update the dynamic column settings. So this is how the dynamic column option is going to work through. So the next option what we have is a static column setting. So in static columns, you can specify how many columns you want. So suppose we have a requirement of 4 columns, then the width spacing is maintained accordingly. So this is the width between the columns. So that also can be adjusted. Suppose if we invoke this, select this object and right click. So go to the column settings here. So now you can control it dynamically. That is, with the for the dynamic columns, with an auto height setting, we can adjust now the width. The height is same, but column width you can adjust, and maybe you can reduce the gutter size. So suppose it's of 15 mm only, so that it will get closer. But the point to be noted is the properties denote that we have a constant width that is of the columns. so that is going to be held constant. So based on that, the total width of the dynamic M text is assigned. So this is how your dynamic columns is going to be employed with the mtext command. Whereas also you next have the static columns that does the same job, but rather you specify how many number of columns that you want instead of dynamically entering in the GUI environment. So this sums up for the mtext, the column commands. And next, let us go into the specification of the additional tools that are available with the mtext command in the ribbon prompt. So I'm double clicking onto this to invoke the other commands what we have. So here we also have the bullets and numbering that options are present. So this is similar to the other word processing softwares you have. So we are not dwelling deep into it. So next also we have the find and replace for choosing any text within the option. So it invokes the similar view of the word processing softwares that are available. So you can make use of it to search any text within the full drawing. So next, alternatively, you also have the other commands, that is the different character set that you can call in for the language set, and next the editors that need to be shown. So this is what we were talking about, the WYSIWYG, that is what you see is what you get display box. So with the latest AutoCAD settings, now it is always in the enable mode. So what it does is it helps us to directly edit the text in the current UCS view, or also control the in-place text editor that is going to use. But normally in the 2D setup, that might not be of much use to us, but it might be have an impact if you are placing a mtext in a different layer or a different angular plane, then it might be of impact to you. But the concept is that by default, when unchecking this option, whatever text that are going to be written in typically whatever is difficult to read, that is of small text or a large one, it will be always legible, and it is always oriented in the horizontal plane so that we can easily read and edit. So if we want to enable this, then we can select it by using this command, I mean with this selection. Alternatively, we can also use this command line object, that is mtext fixed. So it will show this option is for the in-text editor. So by default it's 0, that is it's the option is checked, or else it can be set to 2 so as to disable it. So based on the requirement, and if you find the editing with the mtext command to be difficult, then you can make use of this command to facilitate faster editing.